Okay, today is July 9th, 2020. It is 7:15 p.m. We are meeting through Zoom. I will start with a roll call. We'll go up here in the, I was going to say in the upper left-hand corner, but you guys all look differently than my screen does.
Probably.
So we have Susan Roth is present. Rich Ganong is present. Roger Moran is present. Tom McGinn is present. Tad Redway, the town planner, is here. So we do have a quorum. Jens is coming in now.
Is he?
It says he is, so we'll find out in a second.
Yeah, Ren
There he is.
said he did.
Okay,
I just heard from Leah
Oh, we got,
that Jamie's not gonna make it tonight.
okay.
And I
Hi,
haven't heard
Rich.
anything from Marty.
Can you hear
I
us,
sent it
Jens?
to Marty.
Yeah, I've sent 3 things.
yeah, I'm in now.
Okay,
I can't see it. I can only,
So click enable video, Jens.
should be in the lower left-hand corner. There you
There he
go.
is. We see you.
Ta-da.
okay.
Okay, just in
Got you.
time. I just called the meeting to order.
Okay, good.
You want to do
We
the
have-
roll call again?
No.
No, no, we're adding Jens in at 7:17,
And Tom?
and Tom.
Tom was already here at 7:15.
Okay, so we have approval of the agenda. On the agenda tonight, we have the approval of minutes for June 24th. We have public comment. We have 2 public hearings, 35 DMR Drive, a plenary site plan review, and Raymond Acres subdivision amendment and shoreland zone application. We then have pending applications, 35 DMR Drive, Raymond Acres subdivision amendment, and the Wellness Center plenary site plan review determination of completeness. We then have land use ordinance amendments to work on. We have discussion concerning uniform construction and dimensional standards for commercial driveways. Then there is other business, and when we're all done, we'll go home. Oh, Marty's calling me. Hang on just for a second, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, Marty. Marty, you there?
Uh-oh, his son might
Oh,
not
Marty.
be around.
Marty went away. Technology, it's such a wonderful thing.
Okay.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a
So
motion
moved.
to approve the agenda.
I'll
Second,
second.
Motion's been made and seconded by multiple people, multiple times.
I got Roger and Susan. Those are the
You
most.
got Roger and Susan? Tad, can you give Marty a call?
Yeah.
We'll make him a happy camper. We have approval of the minutes
Oh,
for
Marty King.
June 24th, 2020. I'm assuming everybody has had an opportunity to review them.
those are June 24 or June 25, Rich?
It says June 24th on the agenda, but I believe you're right. I believe it's the 25th.
Yeah,
You having problems getting in? Did you punch in on the, Rich sent you another invite. Did you see that? About
I
7
didn't
o'clock.
see that. No.
Yeah.
Are there any issues on,
Yeah. I'm going to try to send you the same thing you sent me. Okay. Try that. Hit that link. Okay. Marty. I'm here, Marty. I'm going to send you this, a new invite. Okay. It's going to go to your, yeah. And it's going to go to your, it's going right to your email. You're on your computer, right?
Okay, let's see. I was here, Susan's here, Jens was here, Marty, Tom. Okay.
Okay. All right. It just
Have
went
you all
out.
had a chance to review the minutes?
I have.
Oh,
I'll move to approve the same as written.
okay, I'll second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of June 25th. Any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none.
Should
Susan,
be coming.
Oh, I'm in favor.
Roger?
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jens,
Call me if you don't get it.
it is unanimous. The minutes of June 25th are approved. Okay, next item on the agenda. I
Just
hate it
hit the
when
link.
everything-
Hit
I
the
set
link.
it all up to
Hit the
be
link.
able to view, and it goes away. There it is. Okay. Time for public hearings. At 7:21, we will start the public hearing on 35 DMR Drive. And then I'll end it almost immediately afterward because there's nobody from the public here to ask any questions about it.
Hold on.
You want me to go ahead or are you? good?
Well, there's no presentation to make. There's nobody from the public to ask you any questions.
Well, I think I would like to put something on the record with regard to what's transpired since last meeting, if that's okay.
Well, we'll come up to that in a minute when we
Okay.
when we do the discussion. So we're just,
Okay.
we shouldn't discuss things
Sure.
outside the public hearing. So I'm going to close that public hearing at 7:22, and I'm going to open Raymond Acres subdivision at 7:22 for the public hearing. Does Nick have anything he wants? Well, he's the applicant, so he wouldn't have anything to say either. And again, since there's nobody here, at 7:23, we'll close the public hearing. The next item is item number 1, 35 DMR plenary site plan review, a proposal to construct a 4,251 square foot metal building complementing an existing 3,440 square foot commercial building on a 2.83 acre site located at 35 DMR Tax Map 1, Lot 1D in the BI district. Gary Martin is the owner and applicant, and Amy McNally Esquire is the applicant's agent. Okay, Amy, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we recall from last meeting, this is an application to for Mr. Martin to construct a 4,261 square foot building on his commercial property. It's essentially another building that would complement his already existing commercial property used for storage of equipment and contractor type business. There wouldn't necessarily need to be any clearing or anything like that. We've submitted a plan to that effect that really provides for that, the area that the site will be constructed on. We did obviously, as we know, run into an issue with the encroachment of the road. We have agreed to remedy that by deeding that portion out to the abutter so that there's no longer an encroachment, and have actually moved the building so that it complies with all setbacks. With that regard, as of last meeting, we had submitted everything in the application checklist. We had requested 3 minor waivers that were really not relevant to the actual building. I can just run through those really quickly. They were for a traffic study, which we did get an email from Maine DOT just assuring that there wasn't going to be a huge increase in traffic that would be problematic. We asked for a waiver of a landscape plan because we don't intend to do any landscaping or change the landscaping, with the exception of erosion control, which I will get to. And also a groundwater study we asked for a waiver for as well, because we had done a stormwater management plan and submitted an HHE 200 at that time. So that, as of last meeting on June 25th, our understanding was that the application was completed and we didn't hear any negative or concerning feedback from the board or staff at that time. And then on Monday, I did receive the peer review from Atlantic Resource Consultants, which was obtained by the board, by the request of the board to essentially review our stormwater report, which it appears from that report from Atlantic Resource Consultants, the board's peer review, that there was no issue with our stormwater report. But they did note some minor things on our site plan that they thought should be added. So on Monday, June 29th, I did receive that. I forwarded it right away to the surveyor that we have been using and to our contractor who is doing the HHE 200, the septic tank essentially. And by July 1st, I did receive an updated HHE 200 and did forward that to Mr. Redway right away for the board's consideration. And my understanding is that addresses the distance between the building and the system once it's implemented. So that updated plan was provided to Mr. Redway on July 1st. And then on July 7th this week, I did receive a complete updated plan, which does include, and again, I can pull it up on my screen if the board would like to review it. It does include the water and electricity noted on the plan, how that will come into the new proposed building, including an overhead power and a water line. And it also included additional notes on the erosion control, including stump grinding and some other erosion control measures on the side. And it also included a additional topographic note, which was requested by peer review. And it put on the plan where the portable garage had been previously, which was also requested. And the existing septic system is also now noted on that revised plan. And so again, I don't think this changes the character or the, the overall scheme of the plan or the building that is proposed or the plan herein. So we would ask the board to consider that updated plan. And again, if the board hasn't seen it themselves, I'm certainly willing to bring it up here on the screen, but I do think it addresses all of those points addressed by peer review. So we would ask for the board to consider that plan because as of last meeting, we were unaware that any additional information was needed, and we certainly would have that instance. So again, we do have a plan that we believe peer review would give the thumbs up to, and we're happy to provide it to them if it hasn't been done already, and make any approval conditioned on that caveat, which I think is perfectly reasonable under the circumstances.
I'm not sure about the rest of the board. The big problem I have is that we got this yesterday morning.
Well, and again, I got the peer review the Monday after the last meeting. So I turned around the HHE 200 2 days later. I asked a contractor to do that, and he was able to do that and get that to me. So I did provide that to Mr. Redway on July 1st. And then on, as soon as I was able to get the plan together, and again, these are things that needed to be added to a comprehensive plan by a third-party contractor around a holiday weekend. So I was able to turn that around and did provide that to the planner on Tuesday. It was late Tuesday, so I understand. But again, I do think these address things that were not previously mentioned by staff, and I do think these are things that could be, that are now implemented on the plan and doesn't change the scheme of the proposed construction, and it doesn't cause any ripple effect as far as any concerns or with any, doesn't change anything, so it doesn't change our plan or our idea. And so I don't think it causes any issues, and I think it would be perfectly acceptable for the board to make it conditioned on us making sure that the plan includes these things pointed out by peer review, which we're happy to collaborate with the peer review consultants in order to do so. But I think the plan already encompasses it. And I understand it's late. It's a short turnaround, but it was also a short turnaround on our end from receiving the report on the Monday after the last meeting, and then needing to get that information to the board, which we did, make every effort to get it there as soon as possible.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Tom?
Well, the only thing, I agree with you, Rich, you're getting into last minute. I really haven't looked at it yet, and the new, anything that came in. So it's hard for me to have any new questions.
Rich, I read
I
the
looked at it.
information. I don't have any issue with it.
And
Jens?
Sorry, Jens.
Yeah. No, I looked at it too. I don't feel like I was prejudiced, in terms of getting it at the last minute. I've looked at it, it's clear.
Okay. Roger?
Same thing, I just got a quick glance at it. I need more time to look at it more clearly.
Well, the good news about this is that we have 30 days from today before we have to take a vote on the issue. So we do have some time that we can look at this and reach a decision. I think we should be able to look at it and reach a decision by the next meeting.
Yeah,
You know, I very briefly looked at this late this afternoon, and I noticed one thing that just had me absolutely baffled. And that's that you're putting up a 4,600 square foot building and the impervious surface is going down. I don't understand how that happens.
And I remember addressing that earlier, and I think it's because it wasn't the way the surface was before. I know that there was an issue around this because I remember asking the same question because between you and I looking at it like that. But I want to say it had something to do with the way that the ground existed now, as opposed to when it will be constructed. The net difference is not a lot.
Are they taking up pavement?
That's my understanding. Yeah, I believe that there's an existing amount of impervious area there that they will be compensating with the building. And I remember having that exact same thought when I first reviewed this application.
Yeah, it's not a significant amount. I'm just,
Right.
It's about 1,600 feet. And I'm going, how the dickens do you put up 4,600 feet and lose 1,600 in the process?
Right, and I think it's a net at the end of the day, right?
That's what it looks, and it just made me scratch my head and go, what? It didn't make any sense to me.
But again, and I have to be clear that existed on the plan from the very first time this application was submitted, so that isn't new.
No, it may be. I won't argue that point with you. I just, like I said, when I was looking at the new plan and reading up with Jason's report, trying to look at everything, it just crossed in front of me, and the percentage is what changed. And I looked at the percentage. That can't be right.
No, I certainly understand. What could I suggest that the board vote to make it approved with conditions? If I guess with the premise that as of last meeting, the only concerns that we heard were that there was an outstanding peer review. And since then, the only difference is that we've received a peer review and that from our perspective, we have, essentially matched. And so at this point, would the board consider voting to approve with the condition that it's blessed by peer review? Just because, again, this application has been in front of the board for nearly 6 months, and it's a relatively straightforward application, and my client has been very, very amenable to appeasing the board's concern with the encroachment and going above and beyond by deeding a part of his property out. So I'm just hoping to kind of get some closure for him, and I think if it is, and some momentum here, and I think if it's a matter of just matching with this peer review, which is, again, the only thing outstanding after last meeting, I think that can be done at this juncture. Or I guess beyond that, I would, if there's additional feedback from the peer review that is more concerning for the board, then I'd like to hear more feedback from it, because I don't want to come 2 weeks from now and have some.
But that's part of the problem, Amy. We just got it all, so we really don't know what's not in there.
Well, I guess then if the board has had time to review the peer review report, is there anything that's I mean, from my review of the peer review, it is noting power lines, electricity sources, and making other notes as to erosion control, and some other minor notes on the plan that have been inserted. But I guess I'd be curious to know if the board has some grave concerns about how this might change their thinking on the overall application, because I think that's something that we should be aware of if we're going to set this out another 2 weeks.
Staff does, if that helps.
What is that?
Well, if some other things that you can address on the plan, you used to have a buffer, no-cut buffer zone designated, and it's not on this plan. And that's an essential part of the final plan. And this is me just going through it quickly. So you used to have the buffer delineated on the plan, and it's not there now as a no-cut area. You've got a clear cut, 15-foot clear cut through the buffer, and there's no treatment of that. There's going to be no screening or anything that you want to do on that. You also have, I guess Jason had asked for some details on the water connection. We didn't have that. All I've got is the indication of the water connection. There's stump grindings and soil erosion control berm that's proposed now along the wetlands edge to the east, but there's no detail of the height, width, or how it's going to be laid down. It's just stump grindings. And how are we going to treat that fill area to the north and east? Is that loam and seed, sod? I mean, how's that going to be treated? Because it shows grading. It doesn't show what's going to be on it. It doesn't designate it on there. So that I'm asking. Those are things I noted immediately.
Well,
And I could send you the.
yeah, I mean, I guess that would be helpful because again, I understand your frustration because I'm getting the feedback day of meetings as well. So I would, if we could get some additional feedback, I just don't want to be back here in 2 weeks and having to get another plan.
I don't either. I would like to see all of this stuff on there, and I'd like to be able to write a findings of fact.
Okay, so
Because I haven't written a findings of fact. I've fleshed one out, but I haven't written it yet because I'm waiting for the board to give me some direction on this.
well, I guess then I guess I would like the staff to have some direction on that so that we can get to the point where we're drafting findings of fact next week. Because again, this has been a long process. My client has been very, very amenable to this process and really gone above and beyond by deeding a part of his property away, and really just looking to get this process wrapped up. And again, there was no intention to get something to the board last minute. I didn't have anything as of last meeting. So I understand that there's time needed for these things, but I guess I would just, if we can get some feedback from the board tonight in conjunction with the staff and have a reasonable deadline to turn it around, I think that would be appropriate.
Agreed.
How long
I
do you
could
think it will take you to get all of the information on together, Tad, for Amy to put on the plan?
I can send it to her tomorrow. I'm not working tomorrow, but I'll send it to her tomorrow.
Are there things to add that need to be added to go beyond Jason's recommendations?
No, it's just some things fell off the plan somewhere along the line. That's what happened. No, they don't go beyond. Well, Jason asked for details on the hookup. I'm not so sure I care about that. I wanted a detail on the connection. I think you'll find that in his peer review. But it's just some things fell off the table somewhere along the line that I'd like to see back on the plan.
Well, and I guess I just had a quick question on that because what I'm seeing on the first,
Beyond the 9 things he is at. Beyond the 9 things that Jason is.
Yeah, I see. He had mentioned the things that I quickly put out were, as I said, I don't have a detail of stump grindings. I don't have any indication of how we're going to deal with the grading, because we're grading. We have to grade a pad there. And I think, Amy, part of the reason why we have less impervious surface is because the building was pushed back a little bit. Was that not true?
the building,
So the new building is pushed back a little bit from where it was originally.
because of the encroachment.
So
correct?
because of the encroachment, so we have less fill. We have a little less fill, and the building, the gravel surface, Rich, is considered to be impervious surface. There's a little bit of a difference in the numbers, but it's impervious surface. So the building's not going to have any impact on impervious surface. What it does is, because we pulled it back a little bit, that's why we have a little less area than we had before. So that's why we have a little less of an impact than we had before. But the only thing that's missing is Are we going to loam and seed that? Are we going to leave it vacant? How are we going to treat that surface? It's basically a lot of soil and water control, or excuse me, sedimentation control, erosion and sedimentation control stuff that I'm getting here. And then the question of the buffer, we're cutting in the buffer for the service connection. So we're doing it right through the buffer instead of down the driveway, which I'm not quite sure why, but okay.
Is that where the buffer is though, Tad? I mean, I don't see, I don't see.
The buffer's in the front.
Because when you said that there was a no cut noted on the original plan, I'm not seeing that on the original plan. So I don't think it dropped off.
Well, I think because you guys said we're not cutting the buffer.
And I don't think that's the plan. I guess I just don't think that buffer goes that far.
Goes along the whole front of the building. Does it
Okay,
not?
I can clarify that with Leon, but I guess I'm just looking at where, I mean, I think the idea
I'm also
was.
looking at the aerial too.
Yeah,
It shows
okay.
it too. So I'd like to see that. I mean, we had talked about, we got to keep that. That's why we
Yeah.
don't have a landscape.
Right, and I think that the idea is it's a 15-foot power, and so to the extent that it's not going to be underground, so there's not going to be any disruption at ground level.
Is that power? I thought that's the water level.
No,
I thought
that's-
that was water.
The water line is closer to, it's going to be right closer to the drive.
Look at it.
I don't think that goes into the buffer. The overhead power, I think, goes above the buffer, and that's just me from, again, I'm not an engineer, but knowing the site and being a lawyer.
I got it.
Okay, Marty has joined us
Finally.
at 7:42.
All right, hold on.
Trying to figure out. on
I'm
the
here.
plan. Thank you, Marty.
I'm here.
Hey, Marty, in the lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says Enable Video. I do not, there's a hydrant on here someplace, isn't there?
Rich, I'm here.
Yep, I got you,
Yeah.
Marty.
Sorry for
Yeah,
being
there it
dumb.
is.
There it is. It's in the wrong file. Great.
Something, I thought there was a hydrant on Route 1 close to here.
That is
think
a
there
power
is.
line.
Yeah, it's not on the plan.
Yes, it is.
Where is it?
It used to be. It's not on the plan now.
Yeah, I don't see it, and that's why I was asking.
No, you're right.
That,
You're right. That's an overhead. Why are we going over there? Oh, I see why.
Because that's the pole that's in the middle of the right of way, remember?
Is that where the service goes now? How's the service go now?
It goes from Route 1, you can see
Comes in
it,
from Route 1.
right.
I need a magnifying glass. See, he's proposing to cut a 15-foot cut right through the point.
And
Is that correct?
I read that, I need to confirm, because I read that as it's 15 feet high.
No, I got 15 feet cut. That was my concern.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's overhead. I'm sorry. These are old eyes. This is a small plan. Yeah, as far as the water, I don't really care about the water hydrant, the water line connection, because essentially KKW is going to do that anyway.
Right.
So I'm not really concerned about that. I am concerned about what's going on with this cut. And I am concerned about when we're putting back that line and designated as a no-cut area, both in the front along Route 1 and along DMR, because that's one of the requirements of the district is to maintain a. And so we need to have that on there. And if we're going to have a power line going through there, then the question is, how do we buffer that? Probably just a wooden fence then, or a small vegetation in there, something. Because we're going to have this big swath, big 15-foot swath through there. How's the planning board feel about that?
It's wider than my driveway.
My doorway wider than your driveway.
Do we have a standard for that, Ted?
No. Standard for what? What to do with an overhead power line?
Yeah, how wide, how much space you need? If 15
Usually overhead power lines usually go along the road or along the driveway. That's how they're usually brought in. They're usually not come straight through. They usually go up the driveways. I mean, that's how they usually lay them out. I mean, his other power line's coming from Route 1.
Right,
Okay.
and the other pole would be the corner of DMR Drive and Route 1.
What's
and that
the,
might
what's
just-
the concern?
Yeah, that might, is that an overhang? Wow, that's a long run. He's got a long run from I'm gonna say that might be too long of a run.
Exactly.
And I'm not, yeah, I'm not, well, more
What's
importantly, I don't think
what's the concern? Is it
the buffer,
aesthetic,
just maintain.
or is it safety, or what?
I'm sorry, you broke up, Jens. Say again? Do speaker view.
I asked, I asked, what is the concern? Is it one for aesthetics or safety or what?
It's a requirement to buffer the parking lot in the building from the road, which is in that district. That's one of the requirements of that district.
And that's typically necessary to buffer from commercial to residential.
It's for both in that district.
Well, wouldn't 15 feet of a clearance, wouldn't that meet the criteria? To me, it seems like, especially since there'll be virtually no traffic on that road, it's a necessity to have the trees cleared for the power lines.
Yep.
I'm all right with it.
Well, I'll tell you guys. Why we have standards?
Well,
My-
we're spending a lot of time trying to do this on the fly. So is there any way to, Tad, if you respond to Amy tomorrow and Amy feels, has some comfort in knowing that more isn't coming down the road unexpectedly, why don't we do that so we can move along?
And was going to make that comment. I think it would be, because we're not going to get that issue dealt with this evening. Because there's a lot of stuff that Tad has to put together to get to Amy. My only concern, Amy, is that you get all of that information back to us in a more timely fashion, because if it shows up our next meeting is on the 23rd, and if it shows up on the 22nd, it's not going to be on the agenda.
And then I guess I would need, again, it's sort of out of my personal control. I can certainly, communicate that to the third-party engineers. But I guess it would still need to be a little bit of a reasonable time. So if I was to get that tomorrow, which is the 10th.
So Tad, let's give Amy a drop dead date that she has to have everything back.
Well, if you get it tomorrow, then I was thinking, if you have it for a week, you can get it back to us, and that'll give us enough time to review it.
I can do my best. I won't be obviously making the plan, but I can certainly communicate that to obviously my client and the surveyor.
Does that work for you, Tad?
Yeah, I can do that.
Through
Okay.
the chair.
Because
Yeah,
I'll be
Marty.
doing, I will,
To
go
the
ahead,
chair,
Mark.
through the chair.
Yeah, Marty.
If I recall correctly, that pole also goes down underground because that also feeds Keith Cole's out back and everything else. The power line.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm just saying,
That's something that they can look at.
I'm just saying the pole may be there. Then I'm not sure if it goes underground because Keith Cole has the power out to his property out back there. And then it also supplies power to the rest of the other buildings.
Okay, all right.
So
Well-
Tad, okay,
Thursday. Next Thursday, I will get to Amy the stuff tomorrow.
Did we say Thursday or Friday?
What?
Oh, I thought we said Friday. I thought we said a week, that I would have a week.
Yeah. It's
He
from
did, he
today.
did. I said if he gets it to you
we're not-
tomorrow, which is Friday,
Yeah.
that you need to
Thursday
get
is
it.
my Friday. You have to realize that Thursday is our Friday.
That's
We
true
do
because
four-
town hall is closed on Fridays. So you would have to get it to him on Thursday.
Because if you get it to me Friday, I won't get it till Monday.
and Thursday is a week,
Well, it's a week from today.
right?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll send it to you tonight.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Again, we'll do our best. It's a bit out of my personal control, but I will
Understood.
rally the troops.
Okay,
Okay. Good enough.
so we will take care of that and we'll put you on the agenda. The good news is that the public hearing is done.
Fair enough.
The bad news is that we have 30 days in which to make a decision. So we've got some time to straighten up a couple of issues. Close that one. And I can close this one. And I can go to here. And then the next item on the agenda is the
Anybody
Raymond
got a
Acres.
noise in the background or is it me?
What?
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. No, it's my iMac's going crazy on me.
Okay.
Never mind. Sorry.
The next item on the agenda is Raymond Acres. And let's see. This is a proposed amendment to alter the approved property line between lots 503 and 503A on tax map 30, as well as a reduction in the 75-foot shoreline stream protection setback from Goff Mill Brook tributary on tax map 30, lot 503A, off Black Dog Road in the R2 and SP districts. Nicholas Raymond is the owner applicant and Amy McNally is the applicant's agent. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Nope. Well, I will ask, just to be clear, the site plan that we have, that's as built. That's the way it is now with proposals for landscaping.
So, did the board receive the most recent landscape plan this week?
I've only got one. Was there more than one?
There was one submitted this week,
I sent it out to you Wednesday.
Wednesday. So the board does have it. So, so
No, they, yeah, go ahead.
so I guess my understanding is that that's a perspective view of the property, and Steve Doe, who's the author of that plan, is also on the Zoom. So I think if there are specific questions on the plan, you can certainly direct them to him. He can provide all of, the details for all of that. It might answer all of your questions. But again, when we were at this meeting, at the meeting last on June 25th, we did hear some concerns. We did receive the staff notes the day prior to the meeting, and Mr. Doe has submitted an updated plan that we think addresses a lot of those issues raised by those staff notes. And again, he can speak more clearly to that. So I would turn it over to Steve to answer your question, if that's okay, Tom.
Yeah.
Would you want me to kind of go through my thought process on this? So what you see is a lot of the circles, that's really the planting area, and that planting follows the top of berm that I had staked out in the field for the site walk. And the way I've set this up is on the tight corner around the building where there's a very narrow section. I've placed a boulder retaining wall that'll give them at least a 6-foot wide level area around that corner of the house. And then that goes back to the bulkhead on the actual side of the house. So that'll allow them to have a flat area to get around, maintain the house. And then the way I've set up the plantings is that right along the top of the bank where the lawn's gonna come up to that bank, I've planted a fern sod, which will pretty much be an instant vegetated area. So any water that's running off just the lawn will have this stable planting area to basically control the water. And then below that, there's kind of a band of sumac. It's kind of a variety of a native plant, but that is a very, it's kind of a ground hugging plant that's gonna help root in and hold that slope. And then as you start heading down the hill, I've worked in various other native shrubs, some that provide habitat for birds. Some are stoloniferous type rooting systems, so it's going to help hold that slope. And then kind of interspersed among all the shrubs is a mixture of evergreens. I have some balsam fir, some hemlock. There is also red maples, and then probably more than anything is service berries. There's 2 types of service berries. They kind of start out as a shrub, but as they mature, they turn into an understory tree. Again, more habitat for birds. There's a lot of berries on those. And as you head down the slope, I get taller plants, more water resistant, more water tolerant as they get closer to the wetter soils. And then just as you go into the existing tree line, I've added some more red maples and some more larger shrubs that are tolerant of the wetter conditions. As far as dealing with the runoff, I show on the back of the house a gutter system that flows towards where the garage is. There'll be a downspout there, and where that downspout hits the ground, have a level spreader there. That could be stone, it could be a kind of a crushed stone kind of thing. And then until the lawn is established, I have a erosion control blanket that goes from the level spreader to the top of bank. So that'll control any water that's coming out of that downspout, which will be a concentrated flow. And then there's also some erosion control blanket on the level area where it's very narrow. Again, just in case there's any disturbance in that area, that'll help hold that slope. And lastly, the whole slope is covered with erosion control mulch to help stabilize that versus kind of like a bark mulch that you might have at your house. This is it knits together and helps hold that slope up. So that's essentially the plan. They will also there's notes about putting loam on the slope so the plants have something to grow. I believe I have 6 inches of loam placed there. And then also the notes about loaming and seeding just the lawn areas, which would be done regardless of the situation. Happy to answer any questions on that.
I have one question, Steve, if you would. None of these plantings would have been necessary or recommended had the building not intruded into the protection zones?
I think if I look at where the house was placed, you know, if the house actually sat on the 75-foot setback, you would still have grading within the 75-foot area, and you would still have an embankment. So I would think you would still want to plant a slope on if the house is where it was supposed to be. you still would have had, I think, the same conditions based on what the grades are out there. If that helps clarify that. This is a very heavily planted slope. I mean, these plants I put on here are about 3.5, 4 feet apart, just so you get a quick cover in that versus, using a larger plant and spacing them like their normal spacing, say 8 feet, 6 feet apart. So it's, it's a pretty heavy planting.
That's what it looked, I mean, I don't know about this stuff, but that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
A lot of plants. It's like 400 plants.
No, not that many. It's, there's 22 trees and 182 shrubs, and then you got the fern sod, which is about 225 square feet. Again,
okay.
you
didn't
saw the
understand
slope.
that.
You saw the slope. It's, you really need to get those plants close together to get it reestablished quicker.
So 200 plants.
Yeah.
And then the sod. Okay.
So Steve, I have a quick question. So what existed before, and based on what you're planting now, does it change the balance, the ecological balance of what was initially there? And does it interrupt it? Does it disturb it? Does it just mitigate, stuff that's going to come from the house? But what does it do to what was disturbed?
Okay.
Does it help it? Does it hurt it?
I don't think it really, it's going to be different, because if you saw what was there, you had large pines, not really a lot of understory down there. And it's also at a very low elevation. So you saw what it looked like. And what we have now is we got a different situation, because we got this high embankment, probably a drier soil, and it's in the clearing. So it's not the same environment that was there before. So what I've created is an environment that is still native plants, still provides habitat for birds, but it's more suited for what it is today. You got sands in there. It's a steep slope, but I think it's going to complement the vegetation that's down in the woodland areas. Over time, the plants, the trees will grow up that we're planting. I don't think it'll match what's down there, but again, you got a different environment. You got a steep slope versus a flat, kind of a floodplain area, if that helps clarify it.
And the steep slope was caused or created when the lot was leveled and the house,
Yes,
was constructed.
Right, when they filled for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I would call this kind of like let's say if you had a woodland area, this would be kind of like a buffer, or not a buffer, but a transition from a wooded area to, say, a field area is what we're creating. It's a wooded shrub area versus just going from a woodland to a lawn area. This kind of helps buffer those two locations.
That's more like a clearing in the forest, right, Steve? I mean, that's what we use in the Haystack for.
Yeah, you're kind of,
Because
I mean,
that's a good colonizer in a clearing in the forest. That's usually where you find it.
right. And the way
And
the
it's
plants
usually-
I put in there, eventually this will be I can't think of the word right now, but it'll be a transition zone.
It's more upland. It's a more upland terrestrial area, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't have enough time to really chew on it, but thanks for going through the detail of what your thoughts were on it. And it just came up on my computer. I don't have a large copy of it, so I don't have the ability to print on my plotter. So that's the best I get, 11 by 17.
Oh,
Yeah, if you can get me a bigger one, that would be great.
Sure.
Full size. What is this? 24 by 36?
yes, it is.
Okay, that'd be great to get that.
And again, they're all native plants, common in Maine. With, again, trying to use a lot of plants that have some berries on it, you know, to kind of help restore the wildlife and really knit that slope back together and keep it stable.
Come on, give me more.
Well, did a good job in that, Steve. Looks good to me.
Looks good to me too. I agree.
And where's the, do you have a detail on the, do you have a detail on that boulder wall you're talking about, Steve? What's the grade change there? Because I
Great
can't
change.
tell.
There's really not a lot of detail other than, you know, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 feet in height. You know, nothing really severe. Basically just the boulders set into the slope so they can get that level area around it.
Oh, that's what I want, actual
It'll
size.
sort of act like a retaining wall.
Right,
Yeah,
but
it's
not
between-
being too tall that, you know, the mower's going to fall off of it and then it goes rolling down the hill. It's you know.
I think that.
So the hay-scented ferns are underneath the boulders, right? And then we go down and looking to see what's the slopes like?
It's
Still-
in that particular area, it's probably 2.5 to 1, but then as you wrap around to the rear yard, it's probably a 3 to 1 slope, 4 to 1 slope.
Okay, we're,
Which for those that don't know, a 3 to 1 slope is a mowable slope. In other words, you can plant grass on it and you could mow it. 2.5 to 1 is a little steeper. I'd be a little cautious of trying to run a push mower on that.
Steve, where the level spreader is situated, going to the grass there, what's that slope where it empties?
That's very flat. That's, there's really only about a foot drop from that level spreader to kind of the top of the bank.
Okay,
It's very flat. That's why I kept it there. So what you see as loam and seed is a lawn area, flat area.
all right, good. Oh, you do have the contour, elevation contours there with all the other lines is, I didn't catch them earlier, but
that's existing right now, right?
That's existing right now, yeah. And I don't see them really regrading the slope other than putting 6 inches of loam on it and kind of smoothing it out. There was an area right pretty much where I show from the level spreader to the top of bank where they brought some extra fill in for some construction. That's going to be pulled out. There's about 12 inches of material that'll be pulled out of there. But it's pretty much going to follow the shape that's out there now, just other than smoothing it out a little bit.
So just for my own curiosity, Steve, how long before this is a mature growth?
The shrubs are going to grow the fastest. You're going to, I'm trying to think out loud, you know, maybe 5 years, they'll be pretty thickened through there. I went with smaller caliper trees. Typically, if you were doing a landscape, you know, commercial development, you'd put like a 2.5 inch, 3 inch caliper tree out there. Here I went with smaller, the red maples are a 5 to 6 foot height tree. And the rationale for that is that a smaller tree is going to perform and survive better than a larger tree. And a lot of times, the smaller caliper tree is actually going to outperform a larger caliper tree in the long term. The trees are obviously going to take longer to mature, but I think the goal of this is to get the understory established, get that slope stabilized, and get, you know, the wildlife habitat in there, and then the trees will mature over time. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Like I said, just out of curiosity.
Yeah,
Furniture list. Witch hazel. Ilex. Red sunset. Oh. Okay.
it's a
Steve, is that
variety of-
all sand? Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of familiar with it. Is all of the fill sand? Or is it got junk in it? Has it got some clay in it? Does it have some silt in it? Is it just pure sand, do you think?
Kind of looking for Nick to see if he has any thoughts on that.
It was like a small bony gravel type fill along with the sand right on top. The same was on top for when they were going to put the sheetrock through the back window to stabilize that for the truck.
And I kind of assumed that, Tad, that it might be kind of a bony material. So the
Yeah.
plants that I placed along the top of the slope can tolerate the drier, bonier soils. And then as you
Right.
get down towards the bottom of the hill, assuming you're going to get moisture leaking out from the hill, I use plants that are more, can tolerate moisture, or a wet or dry conditions. So, and down at the
Yeah,
very
it's in the
bottom are,
maple down at the bottom.
yeah, the
Yeah,
ones at the
I
bottom
saw
can
them.
tolerate the wet.
Yeah. And the service barrier is at the top. That's who the only anchor is.
And they can live in dry and wet areas.
Yeah.
Does the board have any other questions for the applicant?
Not me.
No.
Does the board see any glaring issues or concerns with the plan as proposed by Mr. Doe?
I'd like to study it a little bit more, but no, I don't see anything that makes me recoil in horror. I think it's how do we stabilize the in between? Steve, I see retained slope, that's at the bottom. Mulch slope with stump grindings? Okay.
Yeah,
The whole slope?
the whole slope will be stump grindings.
Okay.
So we have the findings of fact, but I'm looking for them. Tad, when did you send us the findings of fact?
They went out this
And I-
evening.
Oh, I have not received those. Have you sent them?
Order
Tonight?
for the board? Yeah, no. Send them tonight to the board.
So.
Well, that's not.
Just had it, now I can't find it. Oh,
Okay. Ted, you said you sent that out today.
Yep.
I'm looking at the,
I'm gonna send it to
You
you right
sent-
now, Tom. I just found it.
Yeah,
okay,
you did.
Okay. Marty, you need it too?
I'm looking.
Here, I'll send it to you.
No, I found this, but I'm just trying
There
to,
were two sessions today.
find which one it is.
I think it's the first one. Hold on a second.
Can I also get a copy?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Amy.
Yes, I found it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Amy. Amy, what's your email again?
A McNally, AMCNALLY @woodedlaw.com. WOODEDLAW.com.
Got it. Okay. Here it goes.
Thank you.
Okay.
You got it, Tom?
I got an email from you, but I don't see the attachment.
I'm sure I sent it here.
That I sent.
Oh, wait, no, that was the one, I'm looking at the one you sent me earlier.
No, but this I just sent 2 seconds ago.
Well, maybe it didn't come through yet.
Hold on.
You didn't send it to his EDU account, did you?
What's your email, Tom?
T McGinn at yccc.edu. Is that the one you
Okay.
sent?
I
Yeah,
think so, but I just sent it again.
okay. I should check my other email. that
You
I
should
don't-
check your other email though. So the YCCs don't offer, Tom.
Yeah,
I send them to both of your accounts when I send.
okay.
Amy, did my email pop in?
It did. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm just reading it on my phone.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. All right. So the question is, there's two things we have to do. The first thing is have to make a decision on the shoreline zoning application for a special exception. And once that's done, then you're going to have to go back and advertise and do the amendment to the subdivision.
Well, and that is also on for public hearing today. It was also advertised. Both applications are advertised on today's public hearing.
I don't believe so. I think it was shoreline zoning that was advertised.
Yeah. Not
Well, no,
according to the-
it says
Shoreline
subdivision amendment and shoreline zoning application. It says proposed amendment to alter the approved property line between lots 503 and 503A on tax map 30, as well as a reduction in the 75-foot setback. That's on today's agenda.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're still gonna have to make a separate decision on that.
The findings of
That's
fact will be similar.
Yeah, but we're not gonna do it that way. I have to do is findings of fact for the subdivision, okay?
Couldn't we just run through the application?
What's the board's pleasure?
What's the more efficient way to do it?
Good question.
Your first question is, the second one's has no bearing whatsoever if you decide that you're not going to give a special exception. If you're going to give a special exception, then you have to first do that. Then we can move on to the other one. I haven't done a findings of fact for the subdivision at this point, because there's no point in doing it until we know whether we're going to go on this one.
So this is the special exception that we're looking at now.
Correct.
It's a
Right.
special exception. It's the other one's immaterial if you don't give the special exception.
Right, right.
But
And
if you-
Steve Doe's plan is immaterial too if we don't give the special exception, although it's very pretty.
Exactly.
So Rich, what's your pleasure?
I need a motion.
Do you want to read the findings of fact, or do you want to have a motion, or?
Well, we have some votes that we have to take in the findings of fact. So that it would do us no good to go through the whole process.
Well, the whole findings of fact that Tad sent us today is all on the shoreland zoning application for a special exception.
Correct, it is.
Right.
And
Right.
that is the issue. If we accept the argument that there is a special exception, then we're going to have to go through at another point and do the issue on the lot line change. But if we say that there is no special exception, the lot line change goes away.
So
it's no longer-
what are you thinking? What's the best, most efficient way to proceed?
I think you have to vote on whether or not to grant a special exception. That's the
So
first
I-
thing you've got to do. And this is
Well, let me
findings
ask
of
this,
fact.
is there any controversy or is it a close call on the latter issue?
On the
On
change
on the
of the
lot
lot
line.
line?
Yeah.
No, I don't think there is.
So, right?
No, it's just a land swap between my mother and I.
So what's, why don't, I mean,
I had a question about that, Nick, to be honest. Why are you changing this? Why are you the cul-de-sac?
I think that was part of the original plan or something. The cul-de-sac needed to be relined up or something.
No, this is taking from the approved plan. The realigned cul-de-sac was realigned, and now there's more being taken from it. Just wondering.
No. She was giving land to it because there was an issue with the way Leon wrote the deed. It was just to fix it and make it all good. Nothing changes. It was just the deed was written wrong the first time by Leon.
It's just essentially going to be a corrective deed.
Right. It's a tiny little sliver. What's the word?
Well, I think we should deal with the special exception issue because that makes the other stuff moot.
Sure.
It doesn't, we don't accept, Amy's arguments or, proposals. So why don't we, it's up to Rich, but what's the best way to make sure we all understand what we're talking about, that we're all voting on what we need to vote on,
I
and
think
then ultimately come to a decision?
I think the only way to do it is to address the issue of the special exception. If the special exception is successful, then at the next meeting, we're going to have to deal with the lot line.
What?
Okay, so
on the drawing to be brought up. I mean, it's all been there. We have the deed. It's already been
Yeah.
submitted.
Because there are two separate issues that we have to address on this. One of them is the change in the lot line. The other one is the special exception. If we grant you the special exception, then we have to address the issue of the lot line.
But
If
the
we
lot
do
lines,
not grant the special exception, the lot line doesn't matter.
sure, but
why
I
are we
think,
compelled to take the harder issue first and not address the easier issue and I asked if there's anything controversial about that, and I got, Well, I think
There
it is.
isn't. I don't
Why don't
think
we
that there is anything controversial.
knock it out of the way and move on to the thing that's going to take up considerably more effort and thinking.
Because let's assume, Jens, that we say, okay, there's no problem with the change in the lot line. And then we tell him that he can't have his special exception and he has to put the building back. He can't put the building back because we just granted him a change in the lot line. That would not give him enough setback from the lot line.
It would.
I understand that position, and that's fine if we want to take this special exception up first. I guess my thought is that we're here for the entire application today. It's been noticed for public hearing, so I think that the board could take a vote on the boundary as well tonight. I guess that was my concern, is that setting it another 2 weeks to take a simple vote on a less controversial issue, as I think what Jens was getting at.
well, and it's contingent on whether or not you get granted a special exception.
Correct.
So,
That's fine.
I would say, I would say at the same time that we haven't really reviewed the application for the subdivision changes, the lot line changes, mainly because this was the primary issue. So we haven't really reviewed that.
But the entire application has been pending.
Hasn't that issue been before us for a long time now? It seems like we're visiting this again and again.
May 14th, we
No,
filed that application.
Yeah, and the problem was, again, you had to do a shoreline zone change.
But
Is
we
that
didn't.
right? I mean, basically, I had to do that.
But we have not amended that May 14th application with regard to that boundary line since that time. It's been nearly 2 months. We have not amended that portion of the application.
Well, let's stop talking about the boundary line. Let's deal with the special exception, because that's the dog that wags the tail. No?
That's fine.
All right, I'll throw it out there. I'll make a motion that we approve of a special exception to would it be shoreline zoning.
Okay.
I don't know if I need to have a reason for it.
No,
Yeah.
you make a motion that, like you did. Now we need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve the Raymond Acres Shoreline zoning application for special exception. Is there any discussion before I start reading this? Now, we're going to have to vote on these criteria the same way we do with the conditional use. They're going to be one at a time. Roll call votes. Does anybody want to talk about it beforehand?
Well, I think that a lot of what we're going to learn is, as you read what Tad's written in the findings of fact, we'll be able to make our determination based on that information. So I would move that we just read the findings of fact and vote on them as they come up, and that will probably give us our decision.
Okay.
The
Through the
town
chair.
attorney would prefer you do it
Yeah.
that way.
Through the chair.
Yeah, Marty?
Question along that lines. Is the lot line effective under the special exception?
No,
No. No, it is not.
Two separate issues.
totally separate issue.
And it's only relevant, Marty, if they get the special exception.
Okay, hearing no other discussion. Arundel Planning Board, findings of fact and approval motion for Raymond Acres Shoreline zoning application for special exception, July 9th, 2020. Whereas on November 8th, 2018, the Arundel Planning Board approved the subdivision revision 1, Nicholas Raymond, for the proposed re-subdivision of lot 5-03 and addition of 1.46 acres from tax map 30 lot 2 to create a fourth buildable lot in the Raymond Acres subdivision located at Black Dog Road, tax map 30 lot 503 and 505 in the R2 and stream protection and SO shoreland overlay districts. Although significant portions of the new lot were situated in the stream protection and shoreland overlay zones, the applicant was able to identify a suitable building window on the approved lot that provided adequate area for a dwelling, septic system, and well outside of the dimensional setbacks for the R2 district and the shoreland zones. Whereas on February 6th, 2020, the applicant applied for and received a building permit for the construction of a 28 by 38 Cape-style dwelling with an approved septic system and well location outside of the shoreland zoning districts and within the R2 setbacks. Whereas on April 23rd, 2020, the code enforcement officer informed the planning board, the planning department, that the Raymond dwelling had been improperly sited on lot 505, such that the dwelling and fill encroached significantly into the stream protection district, and the north side of the building encroached 15 feet into the mandatory 25-foot side property line setback. A survey was prepared by Lower Village Survey confirming the encroachments. Whereas on May 28th, 2020, the planning board received an application for an amendment to an approved subdivision plan from the applicant, which proposed amendments to the northerly property line of lot 5-5 to correct the side setback violation and requested a special exception from the 75-foot setback requirements of the stream protection district. Whereas on June 11th, 2020, the planning board conducted a site walk on lot 505 to determine the impact of the fill and construction encroachments into the SP district. At the subsequent planning board meeting, the applicant was advised to submit a shoreline zoning application in order to request a special exception from the resource setback requirements. Whereas on June 25th, the planning board received a shoreline zoning application from the applicant requesting a special exception under the terms of section 8634 and 864 of the Arundel Land Use Ordinance. The planning board reviewed the application and deemed it complete. Whereas on July 9th, the planning board conducted a public hearing on the proposed project. Whereupon the Arundel Planning Board has reviewed and given the following consideration of the applicant's amended application and has arrived at the following findings. Findings of fact. Number one, the owner with right title and interest in tax map 30 lot 505 is Nicholas Raymond II. Is it Nick II? Am I reading this correctly? Or is this a typo?
That's, I think, a typo.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
The property map 30 lot 505 is located off Black Dog Road in the R2 district and the stream protection and shoreland overlay districts. The applicant received an approval for a subdivision amendment on November 7th, 2019 to create lot 5-05 from the portions of tax map 30 lot 2 and tax map 30 lot 503, which included an adequate building window to construct a dwelling, garage, septic system, and well within the side yard in the 75-foot stream protection district. On February 6th, the applicant submitted and received a building permit with an HHE 200 showing the location of the proposed residential dwelling on lot 5-05 situated within the SP and sideline setbacks. On a map dated May 14th, 2020, the applicant's surveyor has plotted the field location of the encroachment of the SP zone as being 19-foot encroachment of the building at its greatest point and 28 to 40 feet of fill encroachment. The applicant has explained that the building contractor ran over the building location pins during the foundation excavation phase and reset the pins without the benefit of a surveyor. When the applicant was made aware of the encroachment, he ceased work on April 23rd, 2020. The applicant has petitioned for the granting of a special exception for a reduction of the SP setback as permitted in Land Use Ordinance Section 8634 for the following reasons. A, the encroachment was an error made by a third party without the applicant's knowledge or consent. B, relocation of the existing dwelling and fill from the stream protection district is an unreasonable financial burden that will only result in more environmental impact to the remaining upland area of lot 5-05. C, special exceptions are historically granted for unique and unusual circumstances. The accidental encroachment of the building and its fill into the shoreland district by a third party represents such a unique circumstance the planning board was envisioning when it devised the special exception provisions. D, the applicant is prepared to revegetate the fill area with the upland plant material that will stabilize the slope and over time help to renaturalize the area. Conformance with the shoreland zoning criteria land use ordinance section 867. The proposed project conforms to all standards of the zoning district and meets or exceeds performance standards specified in section 5, 8, and 9 of this ordinance. The applicant has violated the 75-foot setback of the stream protection district. However, under section 8634 of the land use ordinance, the planning board has determined that the applicant is entitled to a receipt of a special exception to reduce the SP buffer from 75 feet to 25 feet due to the following factors. The violation and accident, therefore, the violation was accidental and therefore out of the applicant's control. B, relocation of the building and fill encroachments would result in an unreasonable financial hardship to the applicant. C, relocation of the building and fill encroachments would result in an unreasonable and environmental impact to the upland area outside of the RP district. D, the applicant proposes to revegetate the fill area within the encroachment area with naturalized upland species in order to restore parts of the removed vegetative buffer. The final planting plan must be approved by DEP and the town planner. E, the special exception provisions of 8634 is designed to address unique circumstances such as an accidental encroachment and in situations where the environmental conditions and the integrity of the wildlife corridor are not compromised. I need a motion on that first condition.
Through the chair.
I move
question.
this deemed satisfied.
Okay, I'm sorry, who made the motion?
I get that. Could I hear that again, please?
I don't know who made the motion.
I don't think there was a motion made.
I made the motion.
Jens made the motion. I thought Jens had seconded it, sorry. Jens made the motion. Who seconded it?
Second it.
Okay, Thomas seconded it. Marty, you had a question?
Yes, how long will it take DEP to react upon the vegetation approval?
That's a good question, Marty. I'm going to read you an email that we received from DEP. It was dated May 22nd, I believe. I have heard back from the project manager regarding the after-the-fact PBR application for locating the structure in the stream buffer. The application is being denied because it is in violation of shoreland zoning. I have also heard from our Attorney General regarding Arundel's ordinance language. At this stage, where the planning board has already fully considered the project and a permit has been issued, the project is in violation. There is no going back to the planning board to permit what was constructed in this scenario. The owners can apply for a variance if they feel they can meet the criteria, or they can bring the project into compliance with the permit. That was the issue that we had with the town attorney, and the town attorney said that we should hear the application before us. So we put it on the agenda. But DEP informed us back in May that they're not going to grant a permit.
Well,
No, they-
I would disagree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they
I
said.
think that language is pretty clear.
No, well, I think if you listen to that last sentence, they say you get a permit and then we go back to them.
Yes.
It says that they can apply for a variance
Or a
if they
permit,
can meet the criteria.
or a permit. The last sentence says or a permit, and we're looking for a shoreland permit through the board.
Or they can bring the project into compliance.
There,
But I take that to say that the DEP is saying that if the building stays where it's at, it's not in compliance.
well, I think that they're looking for town approval before we go back to the E DEP.
We had talked, when I was emailing with the DEP, they said once you're in, are given a variance or accepted by the planning board, they would accept our permit and go forward with it. They said, until then, you're in violation of the town's shoreland zoning, but that's what we're going to you for, and then they would approve it, is how they said it to us.
Do we have direct communication in the form of a letter from DEP that they would do that?
No,
I may.
Through the chair?
yes,
Are we still doing is this still a deliberation by the planning board? I'm just wondering, have we switched into dialogue again, or I'm sorry, I went out for a
no,
second.
you're right. This should be discussion among the planning board.
Just a question.
Yes.
I think we were on the first condition and there was a vote to approve and a second, from what I recall.
Right, and now we're having discussion amongst the board as to whether or not we approve that.
Rich, the way I hear that, I agree with Amy that we can deem that it does comply. I think it's up to us to make that decision.
Okay, and you know, we could say yes or we could say no. That in terms of this particular section, but somebody asked if we had heard from DEP about it. We did hear from DEP. They said it was in violation.
And
Now,
oh,
the-
sorry,
That's
go
because
ahead.
we said it was in violation, but now we have a new application and we can make the call on its own merits.
Okay,
Well, there's an
Rich,
NP, just
we
a
can-
clarification, there would still be an NPRA permit application that will be done after this anyways. I mean,
Yeah.
That has to be done to meet wetlands or stream, their NRPA stream regulations. But that can be a permit by rule.
Oops, sorry. I did just find an email that we had with the DEP. They said this project is an issue with shoreland zoning, so Colin Clark, the shoreland zoning coordinator, requested it be marked deficient and sorted out at the town level before the project is resubmitted to the DEP for acceptance.
Right, exactly. It's still got to go back to DEP, but
Right.
but it has to be dealt with at the town
That's a
level
separate
first.
issue from here, right?
So Tom, the question is it the intent of the special exception to take into account errors and man-made issues? Or was the intent when the special exception provision was written, and I don't know, I'm just asking you this question, was it written with the intent of dealing with environmental issues, not man-made issues?
I guess
It
the way
doesn't
I'm saying
matter.
it, for unusual circumstances, which is the case that we have right here.
But I see, Tom, that's where I disagree with you. I don't think this is unusual. I think this was self-inflicted by the applicant. And because of that, it doesn't qualify for a special exception. He had a plan. He knew where the building had to go.
I didn't.
And he has recourse. If he had no recourse, that would be different, but he has recourse. He can go after the contractor. He can move the building. He can do any number of things other than say, oh, I qualify for a special exception because the building's in the wrong place. The building is in the wrong place, but I don't believe that it's a special exception. When we originally discussed this, it was more from an environmental point of view, assuming that you had a lot that you could build, but the only place that you could actually do that building would have an impact on the SP.
But now we have a new environmental situation, which is if, in order to move the house, it would be at a cost to the environment there. It would require more filling, cutting trees.
So Tom, the
I
other
concur.
question is,
Yeah.
does it open up Pandora's box where people behind them start asking for forgiveness as opposed to permission?
There's always that danger, but we're within the range. We're allowed to give the 25-foot leeway. We're 19 feet. We're within the range. So I think it's still, if someone came to us and was 26 feet, then I would say that's a clear violation.
Yeah, I concur. Not only are we, I think, authorized to allow the special exception under the language of the ordinance, doesn't have specificity, but I don't think we can fault the applicant for lack of specificity within the ordinance. But there is also proposed what appear to me to be very comprehensive and directive mitigation efforts in the form of Steve Doe's plan. So I think I'm with Tom on this one.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on this? Okay, we'll take a vote. Susan?
I'm going to say no.
Roger? Roger, you have to speak up.
He's on mute.
Roger, you're muted.
I say I am in favor of it.
Tom?
I'm in favor, aye.
Marty?
Yay.
Jens?
Aye.
And I vote no. Condition number 1 is met 4-2. Number 2, the proposed project conforms to the goals and objectives of the Arundel Comprehensive Plan. The 2016 Comprehensive Plan has designated the R2 as a growth area, and the residential development is encouraged. Policy 49, however, recommends a 250-foot zone around Goff Mill Brook and a minimum 50-foot setback from the stream. If not for the granting of a special exception, the project would not conform to the 2016 comprehensive plan. Any discussion, comments?
Well, the fact that we just approved the special exemption, it's going to meet the comprehensive plan.
Agreed.
We haven't approved the special exception yet.
Hmm.
We said that it conforms to the standards of the district, which is that whole other discussion that we had. It does seem kind of strange, doesn't it?
It does.
But
So, Roger, was that a motion? So,
Yes.
I'll second it.
motion has been made and seconded to approve item number 2. Any discussion? I
I
honestly, no, go
would
ahead.
note the use of the word recommends and not compels.
I'm sorry, Jens.
I said, I note,
Comprehensive plan, Jens. The comprehensive plans don't compel.
there you have it.
They're advisory.
Right.
Right, so the Jens is right. It just recommends, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I thought he was
Telling
saying that. Yeah, it's not a requirement of the comp plan because comp plan has no statute, it has no regulatory authority.
Okay, so then it does,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not compelled, it's not written in stone.
Not to put too fine a point on this, but the comprehensive plan, seriously?
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion.
We do have a motion. Susan?
Motion.
What? Don't make me go first. You go
Okay,
first.
Roger, you go first.
Ladies first.
I went first last time.
Now, you're up in the upper left-hand corner, and I was just going
Oh,
across.
okay. Well, if we approve the first one and this only recommends, then I'll say yes.
Roger?
Yeah, I'm for it.
Marty?
Yay.
Jens?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
It is unanimous.
You voted it?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to vote for that one.
Okay.
Come on, Roger, it's the comprehensive plan. Number 3, the proposed project has received all applicable federal and state permits. The applicant was initially denied his NRPA permit for the proposed encroachment by DEP because of the shoreland zoning violations. The reapplication of and receipt of the NRPA must be made as a condition of approval.
Hmm.
That makes sense. I mean, if we give them the exemption and the DEP comes back and says no,
Go over.
Yeah, I'm
That trumps
fine
up.
with making that a condition of approval.
oh, I am
Yay.
too.
Yay.
Yes, I am also.
So who is that?
Okay.
Who said, yeah, who made the motion?
I make the motion.
Who
I'll second.
seconded it? Jens?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jens seconded it.
Oops.
So we
I
heard,
vote
we heard Susan say yes,
yes.
and her dogs have said yes.
Aye.
Roger?
Yes,
Marty?
Aye. Aye.
Jens?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Number 4, the proposed project will not adversely impact upon the existing water regime, hydrology, salinity, water chemistry, flow volume, or flow velocity of wetlands, ponds, streams, and water courses. The current fill close to the associated wetlands of the tributary does pose a potential localized impact of sedimentation and increased runoff velocity into the associated wetlands of the tributary. The reconstruction of a vegetative filter on the slopes of the fill encroachment will mitigate this impact.
So moved.
Second.
Marty made a motion, Jens seconded it for approval. Any discussion? So we'll let Susan off the hook and I'll start at the bottom with Tom.
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Jens,
Aye.
Roger,
Aye.
Susan.
I'll say aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Number 5, the proposed project will not have an adverse impact upon the quality of groundwater resources. Proper revegetation of the fill to the encroachment area and continual maintenance of the natural buffer will minimize impacts to the groundwater resources.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded for number 5. Any discussion?
Aye.
No, we got to talk about it first, Marty. Evidently, nobody thinks it'll have any impact, so we'll continue right on. Marty?
We're all putting our faith in Steve's plan, and
Faith in Steve's plan and faith in the fact that the applicant will continue to maintain the plan. Jens?
Aye.
aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
Susan? It is unanimous. You muted yourself, Susan.
Yeah, you're muted, Susan.
Aye.
Yeah, I saw your mouth move and I said, yeah, she said yes, but
I'll shake my head. I just didn't want you to hear the dogs barking.
Number 6, the proposed project will not result in sedimentation, erosion, and/or nutrient loading of adjacent and downstream wetlands, water bodies, streams, and watercourses. Proper revegetation of the fill in the encroachment area and continual maintenance of the natural buffer will minimize impacts to the groundwater resources. The applicant will submit a maintenance easement requiring the applicant and assignees to retain the revegetated area in a natural state in perpetuity.
The move we approve based
I'll
on,
second.
based on the plan Steve submitted.
Second?
Okay, Tom made the motion, Susan seconded it. Any discussion? Nick, you realize that if you sell the house, this is going to have to be part of the selling agreement, and that the new owners will have to take over maintaining.
Absolutely.
Okay, good enough. Tom? No,
Aye.
I'm sorry, we'll start with Roger.
Aye.
Jens?
Aye.
Tom said yes. Marty?
Aye.
Susan?
Yeah, aye.
It is unanimous. Number 7, the proposed project will not have a deleterious impact upon existing and valuable aquatic and wildlife habitats and populations. Proper revegetation of the fill to the encroachment area and continued maintenance of the natural buffer will minimize impacts to groundwater resources. The applicant will submit a maintenance easement requiring the applicant and assignees to retain the revegetated area in a natural state ad infinitum.
It should be improved.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I guess Tad got tired of using the idea of in perpetuity and thought he'd try ad infinitum.
Aye. I vote aye.
Wait a minute. One thing we should make sure it says any future owners.
Yes, that's what it means by the assignees.
Okay.
So
I
if he
understand.
sells the property, whoever he sells it to.
Thank you.
How is that going to be memorialized in the public record to, for example, a title?
That- That's a good question. I think as part of the, when we get to the conditions, we're going to have to make that attached to the plans. Or at least that's my thought, unless you have a better idea.
It has to be attached to the deed, I would imagine.
Okay.
Aye.
Yeah.
Marty said aye. Tom?
Aye.
Jens?
Yes.
Roger?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Number 8, the proposed project will not adversely impact critical wildlife habitats and marine resources. The project will not have an adverse impact upon terrestrial wildlife movement once the tree and shrub cover in the fill encroachment area is stabilized and maturing.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Who moved that? Was that you, Roger?
Yeah.
Roger moved it, Tom seconded it. Any discussion? What do you say, Jens?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
It is unanimous. The proposed project will not adversely impact important local cultural resources, archaeological and historic resources, or the visual quality of shorelines and surrounding environs as viewed from the resource and public spaces. The project will have no impact upon local culture, historical, or archaeological resources, nor create a visual impact to public spaces.
I'll move to approve.
Second it.
Tom made the motion, Marty seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none. Susan?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
Jens?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
It is unanimous. The proposed project will not produce noise, odors, dust, debris, glare, solar obstruction, or other nuisances that will adversely impact the quality of life in the resource area. The project will produce no unusual impacts for a residential district.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Susan, seconded by Tom. Any discussion? All those in favor? Susan?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
Jens?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Number 11, the proposed project will not adversely impact the integrity of important vegetative stands as well as unique natural areas as identified by the Maine Department of Conservation. The project is not located in a unique natural area as determined by the DOC.
So moved.
Second.
Roger made a motion, Jens seconded it. Any discussion? Jens?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
It is unanimous. The proposed project meets the approval standards of Land Use Ordinance 1064. The project meets all other site plan criteria of Land Use Ordinance 1064.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Tom made a motion, Roger seconded it.
Through
Susan?
the chair.
Yes.
In considering this one, which brings us to 1064 and particularly paragraph 7 of that, where we revisit the environmental quality of the site. I go back up to 7 above and just understand better. The applicant assigns to, or the applicant to submit a maintenance easement. And I'm wondering, the easement is intended to obviously burden the applicant and his assigns, but the beneficiary of the easement would be whom? How is this instrument going to be prepared? And I guess I'm not clear on that approach to things.
That's going to be between Amy and my attorney.
Right.
I'm not sure what the instrument's going to be exactly, but I know that we can put some sort of instrument that there's a restriction that you will not mow that, you will not destroy that area. Just like we have a no-cut zone along subdivisions, when there is a cut, it also could be a violation. But we have that in several subdivisions, as you recall. We have easements that require no cutting to occur in that area.
What is the thing? well, essentially,
Just did one for Oak Hill.
That right of the town in the land, because I assume it's going to be a right inhering in the town. If it's an easement, it burdens somebody and it benefits somebody. Here, the burden is on the subject landowner. It's going to be on Nick and his assigns. Who is the beneficiary of this specified to be, and what is the instrument that's going to embody that? That's my question.
It's a good question. I'm not exactly sure of it, but we have to come up with some sort of instrument to do that. If I'm all ears. Usually we make it a condition of approval and make it an element of the deed that has to be assigned in the deed.
My question concerns, really, I'm looking forward to, like, you know, this thing is all done and things go on, and so 12 years from now, when it's a different landowner, he's not taking care of things.
Right.
And Goff Mill Brook is at risk because of his not being as responsible as perhaps the Raymonds. I mean, how's it going to be dealt with?
Well, it'll be a violation of a permit too, won't it?
Be in the deed. For sure.
It's in the deed, but it's also a violation of this permit. If that is disturbed, that's a violation of the shoreline zoning permit.
And the amended subdivision plan, if that's recorded too.
Right.
Okay, so what's the answer to the question about the embodiment of this condition?
Well, yeah, I guess I can understand your point, Jens, because we're going to put these conditions on him. So what if he violates them? Or not Nick, but so what if the next guy who owns the property violates them and says, hey, and he takes all the boulders out? What's going to happen?
But couldn't the same question be asked for any condition on any application? It's a matter of enforcement. Usually,
Yeah, but not every application is the subject of a special exception. That's what we have here.
That's right.
But I think as long as this will be part of the deed, I assume, and that we're not the enforcement body. We just give approval.
This is a permit that will be this is a permit that the CEO enforces. The shoreline zoning violations are basically enforced by the code enforcement officer. And if things keep going on this Kennebunk River project, this area may become even more under scrutiny. Not your house, Nick, but the corridor, the whole corridor, because of there's a good chance that the whole Goff Mill could be designated as an impaired watershed, urban watershed, unless we can find ways to fix it. So I think there's going to be a lot of attention to this watershed, and we have this permit. It's going to be on this, as Amy says, it's going to be on the subdivision. And it should be probably a note that we put on the subdivision. If there is a known violation, then the code enforcement officer will find that it's a violation of the permit, of the original approval. I mean, we've had things that, well, the board's very familiar with. I don't want to single out anybody, but we had a contractor who added more trucks to his yard, and the planning board, both the code enforcement officer took action, the selectman took action, and the planning board required him to apply for that, and that was denied, if you recall. So that was a 10-year-old permit.
Yeah.
For just the number of vehicles on a site, and it was caught by the code enforcement officer. So there is a mechanism for enforcement. This is a way of highlighting that mechanism by saying, yeah, there's a deed restriction and we have an instrument here. And if the people who are aggrieved would be the people of the town of Arundel, is what happens here. Okay, if there's a violation of these conditions.
I'm supportive of this, of the applicant's efforts here. I just want to make sure that, number one, that resource is protected, and I am certain that Nick Raymond appreciates that. I have no doubt about that.
I don't think anybody's thinking about Nick on this. We're thinking about the later folks.
Equally important is, I think equally important is fairness to future owners, that they're on, that they have notice that they have special responsibilities as to this maintenance, because that's not necessarily going to occur to people.
Well, I think if it is put on the map and it is put on the plan, and they have somebody do a search, they should find this.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Unless they pay cash.
And I only say hopefully because I've heard some horror stories about title searches that none of this stuff ever showed up on.
Right, till three searches later.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's because attention isn't given to looking at plans like this as opposed to the proposed deed, which of course, unless we were to suggest that this particular easement that you called it, to which the property is going to be subject, it's going to be burdened by, that shows up on subsequent deeds to assignees, I think that would make it very clear, and certainly inescapable notice to downstream owners.
Well, I think it should show up on both the deed and the plan when they get registered.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay, so on number 12, we had a motion, I think,
Yeah,
and we had a second. So what do you say, Roger?
aye.
Jens?
On the understanding that these conditions will show up on both the plan and any subsequent deed of conveyance of the property,
Yes.
I would vote aye.
Okay. Tom?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Therefore, be it resolved that based on the above findings and conclusions, the Arundel Planning Board hereby grants a special exception under the tenets of Land Use Ordinance Section 8634 to reduce the stream protection district buffer from 75 feet to no less than 25 feet directly to the west of the dwelling located on Lot 5-05, and grants a shoreland zoning permit for the completion of said structure within the SP district, subject to the following conditions. The applicant must receive a subdivision amendment approval from the planning board prior to any further work on Lot 5-05. Number 2, there shall be no further encroachment of the 75-foot setback on Lot 5-05, including vegetation removal outside of the currently defined encroachment area. Number 3, the town planner and the DEP shall approve the proposed revegetation plan as proposed by the applicant's consultants and performance assurance in the amount of the reclamation costs before further work is performed on the structure. Number 4, this permit is contingent upon receiving an NRPA permit from the DEP for the proposed encroachment and restoration activities. Failure to receive such a permit renders this approval null and void. Number 5, the applicant shall submit a maintenance covenant agreement or other such binding legal document to the town's attorney for approval, which requires the property owner to maintain and replace the restoration vegetation on the fill encroachment and the property. Number 6, a note shall be placed on the plan and on the deed for Lot 5-05, reflecting the maintenance covenant agreement. So approved by the Arundel Planning Board this 5th day of July, 2020.
Yeah, I move we approve as stated.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded for approval as stated. Any discussion? Tom,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Jens,
Aye.
Roger,
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
5 in favor, 1 against. I still stand by. I don't think it's a special exception.
All right, motion carries.
Now, motion carries. Oh, hang on just for a second, and I will, if I can get my, oh, helps if I use the right mouse.
On the subdivision plan and
Unmute. Amy, okay. Is there anything else you need from us, Amy?
Well, again, I very appreciate your time in running through that, and that was very helpful, and obviously you're very gracious. I do hope that we could also address the application for the boundary issue. My understanding is that's been running contemporaneously with this application. It's been noted on each agenda. I didn't think, and it was submitted on May 14th, so I thought there was sufficient time to review it. So I'm wondering, and I don't think it'd be a vote much different than the one that just taken on the special exception.
But we don't have any findings of fact to review or to go through to agree with that.
I think it would be I mean, I think we could review the checklist and have the substance of the vote.
But you need to hear from the DEP and you need to hear from the NRPA also, right?
They do.
Well, I think,
So that's a condition of your being able to,
listen, you
of
guys.
the special exception being accepted. If they say no, then what we voted on is moot.
that's true, and that would make the boundary, I mean, the boundary could go or could not go, right? He could still change the boundary and move the house.
Well,
I
no,
guess,
because if we approve the boundary change today, you're gonna have to come back and have it done again.
why would we have to do that?
If DEP and NRPA don't approve it, then if we approve the boundary change now and
Right.
you get denied, then you have to come back and you have to change it again.
Well, it could remain the way it is, I believe. Even just shifting it would be still within the setback.
We could move it over more if we had
Right.
to.
If you're gonna move the house, you're gonna might as well use
Right.
that new setback, right?
Right.
So I think the boundary,
Actually, yeah.
You just can't shift things. You've got to have an equal amount of, you have to have an equal amount of land that goes with each
Right.
change.
But,
It has to be an equal trade
it is.
because
It
you don't
is.
have any land to spare. You don't have any land to spare.
Right,
Zero land.
but the boundary's moving over. If anything, it gives us more room. It doesn't change anything with moving the house to the,
Right.
the,
I'm just telling you, yeah.
so it really doesn't matter. Even if we did change it, it wouldn't affect us later on.
right? I guess that's my point, is if the board took a vote and approved it, even if the special exception is denied or the permits by the DEP is denied, I think we could still be we'd be in the same spot. We wouldn't have to come back to readjust the boundary again. We could work within that, that new boundary.
Correct.
You don't have
So I
to
get-
unwind,
What was that?
you don't have to unwind it.
Yeah, and I guess I just, again, hoping to avoid another meeting, particularly if there's not a lot of controversy around this boundary amendment, which we haven't heard any along. So I'm just curious if there's any, and if there's any.
I'm
Sense
at
on
this
that.
point, because we don't have a findings of fact, we don't have a notice of decision. I think the best thing for us to do is to put this off until the next meeting, at least, so that we can at least get the appropriate paperwork for us to go through. I don't want to try to wing my way through a findings of fact based on any kinds of circumstances, because there's very specific language in a findings of fact.
But couldn't we have had that available tonight? I mean,
That's been on the drawing.
that's been on the drawing
Yeah.
for weeks.
You know,
And,
I'm
But
sorry,
we-
guys. There's only so much time I've got. And
well, it's been since 2 months.
We
No,
have
it's
been
been
concentrating on the special
28th.
exception.
That's when you gave the application was May 28th. okay?
May 14th
It's
was
been a
it?
little over a month. It's been over a month.
Still,
Okay.
I mean, it's a, all right.
And the thing is that, no, I didn't know which way things were gonna go tonight. I wasn't even sure that this was gonna be brought up. But I wrote
I mean, it,
this as a preparation, but I haven't done the findings of fact for the other, to be honest with you. If you want to go without it, go ahead, board.
I'm not going without it. I'm not going to try to memorize all this fun stuff or read it off a different script. I think that that's inappropriate. So we're going to have to take this up at the next meeting.
Is there any, I mean, what other findings are required of the board in order to meet the boundary setback? Essentially, it just has to mean that it doesn't substantially change the plan or cause any other violations. Is that my understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
So is there anything that sticks out to the board as to the boundary, the land swap that would do either of those two things?
There is nothing that sticks out to me. Now, I don't know if any of the other board members have seen anything. I don't see a problem with doing it. I see a problem with approving it without all of the appropriate documentation in terms of the findings of fact to go through and read it.
No black and white.
What was that, Marty?
No black and white.
We have no
Not
paper.
written. No paper. No black and white.
I think the board can still take a vote on that though, at this point. So
We don't
so
have
that,
anything to vote on.
well, we have an application to vote on.
We don't have a findings of fact. The voting on the application is immaterial. We deem the application to be complete. The
Right.
next thing that we would vote on would be findings of fact, and we don't have those.
We'll have them at the next
We
meeting.
will have them in 2 weeks. And
gotcha.
okay, the next item, which was wellness center, needs to be tabled. Go ahead, Tad.
Has to be cut their application on the deadline.
They did not get us the information.
Right.
And then we're into the proposal to establish uniform construction and dimensional standards for commercial driveways.
I apologize. Can I just interrupt really briefly? If-
Okay,
Can I know when we could get a signed version of the findings of fact? I'm hoping to bring those to the DEP's attention in the interim so that hopefully we can get a start on that.
as soon as, it's going to be at some point next week.
Okay,
Chad will get it out to me and I will send it out to everybody to DocuSign.
okay, that would be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Gentlemen.
What happened? I was gone. I was gone for all this discussion. So what
Amy
happened?
wanted to know when she would be able to get the findings of fact for the shoreland issue, the special exception. And I
Monday.
told her that once you get that over to me, I will get everything DocuSigned and we'll be
Okay.
able to send it to her.
Okay, I'll do that Monday.
And we'll do the findings of fact on the lot line change for the next meeting.
Okay.
That should be pretty simple. I think we'll just need to read those and take a vote.
Next meeting. I will get you the findings of fact as amended by Monday.
Okay,
And also the finding of facts
And
for
do
the
it
lot
here
line
so that-
meeting.
yeah, we
Yeah,
will
that
have
will
those.
be
at that
Right,
public.
I'm just double checking.
Won't be till the next meeting. Oh, no.
Do you have anything for us on the
You guys are breaking up on me. There you go.
Oh.
Okay.
We had something.
No,
from-
I don't have. Yeah. Is they ruin everything, you know, and if, I'll tell you, a 4-day work week, I'm not really that much in favor.
I don't blame you. Think we can talk about Joe?
We
Joe
can talk
who?
about Joe. I mean, it was pretty
Anything in your
straightforward,
frozen.
don't you think?
Right.
Uh,
Well, I don't know if he needs to come before us or if we can just acknowledge that was the purpose for which that entrance exit was established.
What's that issue?
Joe Paolini up at the Cape Arundel Cottages wants
Yeah.
to start using the hidden, what
Oh,
is
the
it?
back,
Hidden Meadows access for construction vehicles, for not big ones.
yeah.
But he wants to be able to use construction vehicles going in and out of there so that they can work up on that end without having to go all over the place to get it accomplished.
Through the chair.
Yeah, Marty?
I thought that was supposed to be.
They're in the
a
4B section.
Fire only.
It will be once the project is done.
But that
And
was
that-
the
that's
original
supposed to be
intention.
locked afterwards.
It wasn't turning to be a through affair.
Nope, it's not going to be. He
If
just wants to
if
know,
you're driving in and out of it, it's a through affair.
he wants to know if he can use it for the construction.
They shut it every night.
But it's still going into a neighborhood.
And the
The neighborhood
neighborhood,
wants it.
the neighborhood wants it because he'll pave the road for them.
Oh, that was my only concern is that neighborhood, that with construction trucks going through, but if it's to their benefit,
Yeah.
I all right with that.
He's going to get it paved. My only question is whether or not he needs to come back before us to do that. And that's a question for Tad, because I don't know.
Through the chair. Through the
Morning.
chair.
Hang on,
Question
Mike.
is, what is it gonna do to Mountain Road?
My understanding is that it's not going to do anything because these are not going to be heavy-duty construction trucks. These are going to be more of the pickup variety. But I'm not positive.
They're plumbers, framers, and
Plumber trucks.
plumber, electric, you know, electricians, those guys.
Light duty.
It's light duty stuff. It's stuff that does not exceed the weight limit on Mountain Road. They have a right to go on Mountain Road. You know, everybody has a right to go on Mountain Road. The problem is that Joe wanted trucks that exceeded the weight limit on Mountain Road, and that was one of the issues, one of many issues. Plus, you know, Mountain Road's got a lot of traffic to begin with. These guys aren't going in there and coming home at night.
But that brings me back to the question, does he have to come back before us? Or can we just say, yeah, go ahead?
That's your call. That is your call. If you want to do that, to submit a request for an amendment, or to the approval, we can. If you want to just do it on an advice, the way you did with pergolas. Remember pergolas and what was else? Pergolas and patios. Oh, heck. Well, no, the storage facilities were a different story. But pergolas, we didn't even have a public hearing on it. Now, if you want Joe to go and present the plan, an affidavit or letters of support from the Hidden Meadows owners, that would certainly be a reasonable request. Or if you just want him, I think he should have before you and talk to you about it. That's certainly a reasonable request too.
Yeah, I
need more
think that might be the way we want to go, to have him come before us. And if he can get letters from the neighborhood, great. Or if he can get the neighborhood to show up and support it, I think that would be fine. I think we should probably do it that way, and we can stick it on the agenda. That way everybody will know what's going on.
Okay. You want to put it on the next agenda?
Yeah, that should be a pretty easy item.
Yeah, I think so.
We're gonna have a lot of items at the next meeting.
Well, we're going to have two relatively quick ones. We'll read the
Yes.
findings of fact on the lot line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Joe, I think that'll be a relatively quick, tell us what you want to do. You've got affidavits, the neighbors are here. They don't have any problem with it. I think we could bless it at that point without having to go through, having to have a submission to do something that at one point we were willing to allow him to do.
Mhm.
Or at least I think we had said originally that he could use that up in that back area.
Yeah, we encourage them to put it in.
Yeah. And then they can just lock it up when they leave at night. And at the end, when they're all done with that last thing, people aren't going to be using it as an in and out.
No.
So
They'll
yeah,
change the fob on that.
I don't have a problem with that. He can. Yeah, just put him, send him a note and tell him to come pay us a visit. Have you sent us anything recently on the driveways, Tad?
No, I
Okay.
haven't had time.
Okay.
I mean, I'm getting swamped with private ways that are outside of your jurisdiction right now.
Oh, no.
Private ways and non-conforming lots and splits. I'm still besieged with splits that require a road. It's happening. So, should I report on Walter Woods?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I forgot all about that.
That's what I thought. I should have done notes for you. I received a number of complaints from residents of Laurel Lane about buffer violations. And those buffer violations are of the 25-foot buffer that's required to be around cluster subdivisions. And Rich and I went up looking at one specific location that was clearly that the applicant, or I should say the developer, left. The street was a bit worried about that. We found a clear cut that went all the way up to the end, beyond, from the end of that development all the way of the last house on Laurel, and we found there was insufficient buffering along lot 4. Which is the lower lot on the, let's say, left side of Oak Ridge Terrace before you enter. So you're about to enter in that lot that's downhill, that's on the left-hand side. That buffer has been pretty much disturbed. It's gone. And the applicant has, and the neighbors are concerned because the applicant has stated that that's where driveway comes in. Well, I went up the following day after Rich and I had been there and talked to Mike Woods, who is the contractor. Mike admitted, yes, we have some buffering we're going to have to do. When we cleared out some of the vegetation, it was just dead stuff. And we know that we have to put in buffering, and we're going to do that. I said, great. I need a plan. And they said, okay. And I also told them that I had received reports of cutting in the back. He explained to me that the cutting along Laurel Lane from his property line on was not him, but it was the same logger, but the property owner who owns that 10-foot strip through there asked him to remove all the vegetation all the way up to the end of his property line. And the logger did. And that's why there's no vegetation. I've told Jim about that. He hasn't had a chance to get up to there to take a look at it. I also did a back lot of the remaining land, which is separate from the subdivision at this point. The remaining land, I went and did an inventory of that, and I think we may, first of all, there's no permit for cutting for the timber harvesting back there. And there might be some issues with the size of the openings that were left. I think there's less than 40% of the tree. And I think some of the openings are much bigger than they should be. I gave that to Jim because that is not the planning board's issue. That is actually a timber harvesting issue with that's enforced by the CEO. The other aspects about that, the road is just about ready to get paved. It's in good shape. They're putting in they're putting in the filters, the drainage filters. They have one at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Losing you, Tad. It
I
says
put
your
this on the
bandwidth is
Sorry?
low. We keep
Yeah, I
losing
know.
you.
It sucks. So essentially, I have some violations out there, and Walter and Mike and I are going to have to come up with a solution, bring it to the board. Do you want me to deal with it, or do you want him to come to the board?
I don't know if he,
Oh dear.
I don't know what the planning board could do, unless he has a change that he wants to propose. I just soon have it taken care of its staff.
Yeah.
All right.
The only thing is,
Staff will-
the fact is that to make sure we keep the neighbors happy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, the only thing about that, though, is you have to understand that neighbors get upset about these kind of things for a very good reason, and that's because there's been a significant change to the landscape they see outside their window,
yeah.
and they're adjusting. Rich, and the other thing is I would like to really encourage the planning board. You really need to come to the town meeting on the 15th and support the planning board items that are on the agenda for inclusion in the shoreline, in the land use ordinance. Mainly because I've been told by the town manager that people equate all of the land use ordinance changes to me and dictating to you what to do. And so he thinks it's much better that the planning board come in and defend these changes and these amendments rather than have me stand up and do it. It'll be much more effective, he thinks.
Hopefully.
So what are the rules are gonna be as far as COVID and all that stuff for the town meeting? It's gonna be
Required mask.
just a required mask, but it will be at the school?
It's going
Yes,
to be at
it'll
the
be-
gymnasium. And from what I understand, it's going to be a requirement of masks as well as social distancing.
Okay.
I don't know why they call it social. Having to stand that far apart from people is anything but social.
I think we ought to call it social dissing.
There you go.
I like that.
I'm going to adopt that now. I'm just social dissing you. I had something I was hoping that I could persuade the rest of you. Go over onto Laura Lane and to where Walter Woods has his property, and you will see there was a skidder or something that went through on the back part, and there's some really deep ruts out there. It's 25 feet. He's outside of the 25-foot buffer, but you can see right through the buffer. I mean, if you had a house there and you drove by, people would see you quite easily. And I'm beginning to think that we may want to consider, instead of having a 25-foot buffer on subdivisions, have a 50-foot buffer between the houses, because it's 25 feet doesn't do it.
Hmm.
You know,
And it's around the perimeter.
Yes, around the perimeter. If you get a chance, go in and take a look at it, because it's really, I mean, it's sparse in there. And that's a good section of trees out there. But it's not, I don't think it's big enough or deep enough to be able to do a good job buffering. I mean, it barely does a screening job.
Hmm.
Plus,
Is
buff
that,
should not be part of the property. They should be something that's joint, that is owned by the association, so homeowners can't go and cut the buffer willy-nilly and remove that requirement and put the subdivision at risk because of their actions, and especially later on. I mean, I've already seen this over at Scouts Way, so I think we also have to take a look at making all buffers for subdivisions and planned unit developments to be owned by the association. Besides, I've been refereeing fights between homeowners out at Scouts Way.
What's going on there?
And it's just there's differences of opinion on what to do with the front and actually predictable. But I'll put that together for you. Rich, did you bring up also the issue about the shoreline zoning, Article 12?
Oh, I did not. We heard back from the DEP on the shoreland zone where we wanted to reduce the commercial frontage on the water from 300 to 200. They have told us not going to happen. That we can't do that. So we talked with Leah to get her opinion about what we should do, because it's all one ordinance. We can't go in and pull out that one line out of the entire ordinance. So her suggestion is that we pull the ordinance completely. Don't let them vote on that particular warrant. It's warrant 12, is it, Ted?
Yes, it's warrant 12. It's space in bulk.
Okay.
Setback.
We pull that out completely, then we meet and pull out that section that reduces it from 300 down to 200. And we take that out, and then we can resubmit it at some other point.
Oh,
If you recall, the reason we did that was because we have no commercial properties that are subdividable on the Kennebunk River in the commercial zone that can be divided into 2 lots with 300 feet, or even 2 lots with 200 feet. We just don't have any that are dividable. So it seemed like it was stupid and useless. And and DEP agreed, but they said it's in chapter 1000 and you're going to put it in. So they will not approve our other changes unless we get rid of that, amend it accordingly. So we'll pull it. Because remember, our shoreline zoning changes or any amendments we make must be approved, sanctioned by the state, or else they are not valid. So I have to get a letter from DEP once we vote on this that they will approve, the voted changes, which is a great time to find out, after you vote. But that's why I asked Jeff to let us know in advance, and he did. And so that's our marching orders according to Leah's poll 12. So we're going to request that at the meeting. It's a recommendation, I should say. I don't think we have.
It's been so much fun. Don't forget, next Wednesday is town meeting. And go out on Tuesday, pretend you're from Chicago, vote early, vote often.
That's right.
Vote absentee.
Well, if you want to adhere to the vote early, vote often, you vote absentee and then you show up at the ballot and do it again. We probably shouldn't joke about that. All the people watching won't take us seriously.
Really. So are we pretty done?
I believe we are done.
So
Make a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Roger
second
already
that.
beat you to it.
Roger, I second your motion.
Okay.
Guys, I look forward to seeing all of you hopefully on Wednesday night.
Rich,
Please.
And if not on Wednesday, then at the next meeting in 2 weeks. It looks as if we're going to be stuck doing it this way until the middle of August.
Rich,
Yeah,
what was the problem tonight? What, was I doing something wrong?
no, you weren't doing, everybody had the problem. I sent out the link and nobody was able to get in. I had to resend it out.
Thank you.
I don't know what happened.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just got on just not long before you, Marty.
Yeah, I mean, I was on here at 7:02. I had sent the link to Tad. He joined me.
Did you
Nobody
stop
else was
recording,
showing up.
Rich, did you stop recording?
No, I have not. Hang on for a second and I will because the meeting's over.